Okay, I can see you all coming into the room, but we're going to get started because we have a lot to talk about today. So, hello everyone and welcome. You were in the right place for She Can Code's live webinar. Thank you so much for joining us. You just joined She Can Code's live webinar called The Power of Squiggly Careers. I'm your host for today, Kaylee Batesman, the MD Community and Partnerships at She Can Code. For those tuning in who aren't familiar with us, She Can Code is a collaborative community working together to tackle the tech gender gap. You can join our free community platform to find a supportive network of like-minded individuals, new opportunities and guidance to help you to excel in your tech career. Now, before I introduce our speakers, please note we do have a live Q&A session that is running throughout. So please submit your questions and we will try and get to them at the end. So let's kick off with my wonderful guests for today. I have two fabulous panelists with me. I have Eman Al-Hillawi, CEO of at Entec SI, and I have Denise Payne, Lead Cloud Support Engineer at Trusted Tech. Welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to start with some introductions, if that's okay, to set the scene for our wonderful community that is joining. Eman, should we start with you?
Hello there. I'm Eman Al-Hillawi and I am CEO and co-owner of Entec SI Limited. We're a business change consultancy in tech and digital, and we work predominantly in the public sector. So yeah, that's me. And just on cue, my cat is now playing with his toys. Just saying.
In case we hear that in the background,
I
we know what that
apologize
is.
in advance.
We have had some hilarious things happen on these live webinars, so don't worry. Denise, and yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Denise Payne. I am a lead cloud support engineer at Trusted Tech. We are a CSP, so that means we're partnering with Microsoft to provide Microsoft services and licenses. So I've been with them for 2 years now, and really looking forward to sharing some of my lessons that I've learned along the way from this career journey.
Amazing. Well, it is so lovely to have you both here. And also, this webinar, I've really been looking forward to this topic because it is something that our community asks us about a lot. A lot of people join our community from, we say, weird and wonderful routes into tech. And we love to share stories of people that have found their way into tech and found our community and inspire others to think that they can do that. So we have so much to unpack today. But I would love to start with a question for Eman. So looking back, what was the most unexpected squiggle in your career and how did it ultimately benefit you?
So I started my working life in science. So that was my journey originally, straight from university and then continued in science to in biochemistry specifically. And my brain was wired into that's my career and that's what I was going to do for the rest of my life. That squiggled in the late 90s. And just previous to the year 2000, I think maybe some of your audience here might be a bit too young to remember that. But certainly there was the whole worry about what's going to happen in the year 2000 when computers weren't actually programmed to go beyond the late 90s, allegedly. And there was a massive influx and growth in the IT sector. And obviously, it was at the advent of the internet and everything else that came from that. And that was the squiggle. So I took a career change at that point. Best thing I ever did, if I'm honest. And yeah, and the rest is history, as they say. That was 28 years ago. So yeah, it was a while ago.
Haven't
Well back.
looked, yeah, haven't looked back. And why science? What was it? Did you have some kind of crazy science teacher or something or did that run in the family? Why science?
Okay, can I tell you the honest truth?
Go ahead, yeah.
I happened to enjoy science when I was at school, and the reality was my father just wanted a doctor in the house, but I didn't want to do medicine, so that was the other option.
So you tried another doctor, it's fine.
there was no big plan or anything like that. I literally, I was good at it, and therefore I continued with it. It was as simple as that.
Yeah, yeah, and wise, very wise.
And in fairness, it was not a bad thing. It was a good thing to have done. And I think we'll discuss this as to these kind of skill sets that are transferable as the
Yes,
webinar goes on.
yes, definitely. And Denise, what about you? What was your unexpected squiggle in your career?
Yeah, so my unexpected squiggle was being a nurse for 5 years. I went to uni, studied as a nurse, and then started my career. Did For me, I felt like I'd be a nurse forever. I loved my career, but quickly realizing, especially post-COVID, got a bit burnt out after a while, and then frustrated a bit from just the lack of appreciation, lack of work-life balance. So then it got me thinking, okay, what else can I do? Um, and it got me questioning about the career choice I've made. And I quickly started thinking about other industries, and tech is something that a lot of people around me are already in. And I knew a fellow nurse who had also been who was a nurse and then moved into software development. So I that quickly piqued my interest, and then yeah, that's when I made a decision. I think about 2 years. No, it's been about 3 years now. So 2023 end of, and then yeah, in 2024 successfully did that. So yeah,
Amazing.
that's me.
That's quite a career transition. I have to ask though, nursing, did your father want a nurse in the house or how did you end up in nursing?
How I ended up in nursing is I've always had a heart to serve others. I know it sounds quite, oh yeah, but typically, we people don't choose nursing or being a doctor or being in the healthcare system for fun. I think you have to have that genuine passion to help others. And honestly, that was my driver. Yeah.
Lovely. Yeah. And a lot of that, and obviously we're going to talk about transferable skills, but I've spoken to a few community members who transitioned from one career into another, but it was in terms of something like nursing or healthcare, and they thought at first that actually they would lose that, not being able to serve others and help others, and then quickly realised actually the tech industry isn't really what I thought it was going to be, and you're still helping people just in a different way to nursing.
Absolutely, 100% agree with you. Um, I think the most important thing is that you're dealing with a range of people in all industries, and it's all about working together to everyone has a problem and you want to provide a solution. In most industries, that's the common ground, right? So you're able to help other people in that way, and I think I love being a problem solver. So that really spoke to me when choosing tech as my career.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one of the other things as well that people have a misconception about coming into the tech industry is not serving others, and also being creative is something that people think, oh, I've heard community members tell us that they worked in art and or they took art studies, and then when they came into tech, they didn't realize that they could still keep quite a creative career route. Amanda, I can see you nodding on that one. There are certain misconceptions around working in tech, isn't there? And that people don't tend to think it's going to be creative and helping other people.
100%. And to be honest with you, I don't really have much of a technical bone in my body. That's not what I'm about. So when I moved into it, I thought, oh, I'd have to be this genius who can crack code and all the rest of it. And the reality wasn't that at all. In fact, part of the reason why we formed the business and why we do the business that we do is because we were both working, myself and my business partner, for big corporates at the time. And we felt that they were missing a massive part of the change journey, which is the people aspect. And so we completely switched gear. And it was a very techie company when I started with Entec SI, but we shifted it into a much more people focused thing because that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's about helping people move through change and that that's what excites me, is what gets me out of bed in the morning. And actually the technical part of it, there are people who are brilliant at that and they can do that. Where we excel, where my passion is that people change, which is all about that. What you were just saying, Denise, that's what it's about, really.
Yes, exactly. And I think if more people knew that, more people would make that leap as well. Um, Instead of thinking I have to be technical and that's the only thing that I'm going to be doing. Um, Denise, I wanted to ask you about how did you identify when it was the right time to pivot or change direction in your career? Because I've also seen Connie, who I can't see a second name, but I'm hoping this is one of our faithful community members, Connie Foster, who has said, "Love these squiggles. I just wanted to know, how did you know when it was the right time to take that leap?"
I love that question. For me personally, because I think it'll differ, but I think there'll be some common things that I might say that might you might relate to. So the first one I think personally was just time to pivot when I realized I was no longer learning,
Mm.
no longer feeling challenged, becoming too comfortable, feeling like every day was the same. That was my main alert, like, whoa, need to but we're only 5 years in. Need to change something here. And then another sign was this was the second one mainly for me, which was values and priority shifts. So before, when I be became a nurse, I was not married, and I feel like a few life changes had happened personally that made me then realize that it's not just about work. Sometimes you need a work-life balance as well, and unfortunately, nursing was not doing that for me, and I couldn't see a way long term how I could still be a nurse and achieve that work-life balance at the same time. And also financial goals as well. I think that was also a huge one for me. And I realized my current path was just not going to give me that. And then the third one, you have to pay attention to frustration. I think I was frustrated. I think there was this genuine lack of this feeling of just not feeling valued, not feeling appreciated where I was. Not just the day-to-day stress of being a nurse, but I think it was more feeling stuck, feeling unfulfilled, and feeling like no one could see your journey and appreciate it and actually kind of be an advocate for you, to push you along your career. So those are the main three things for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that feeling of frustration as well. Working as a nurse, obviously, actually aligns quite well with even if you're working in a big company. And
Mm,
we've discussed this on here before, but sometimes when you're in a big company and you feel like you're not really seen, but also you always get to the end of the year and you feel like you haven't really achieved anything, that must be quite difficult in nursing, where you think, actually, what did I actually achieve this year? I can see that I helped a lot of people, but how did
mm,
I progress? What did I actually do? And that does happen in some companies, unfortunately, and that's when people start to get that frustration feeling, and then they do jump ship, unfortunately. But man, I could see you nodding along when Denise said learning, when she stopped learning. Is that something that you felt as well?
Yeah, so I spent 11 years in the research and academic world. And I guess for a big chunk of it, because I was working full time and then doing PhD part time, there was a huge amount of my brain was taken up by just simply existing every day and so on. And there was a goal, because there was a goal to get that PhD out of the way. And as soon as that was done, it became suddenly the realization that everything has become very repetitive. It became a job. It wasn't fulfilling. It was, and there wasn't that yes, there was a challenge, because in academia and research there always is challenge, but it's not the sort of challenge that was really firing me up and making me excited about being at work. And therefore, you start to drop your kind of enthusiasm and engagement, and then you don't feel that you're adding value, and it's a bit of a downward spiral. And it took me 2 years to actually make that change because I was like, whoa, this is my chosen career. Well, I'm no good at anything else, and what do I know outside of this world? And I've been in this all my working life so far. And you don't really, I was 30 when I changed careers, which was quite a big leap of faith in at that time. So it was really that drove me. And in the end, it was a case of, well, either you kind of put up with it and you get on with it, or you do something different. And it just so happened the opportunity arose, and I leapt at it. And it needed that kind of, as I say, you stop adding value. To me, that was the biggest challenge, because you then it became an existence rather than a love for the job.
Yeah. Did you a lot of what you both said, it just aligns there with Denise. You said I had this feeling of I've been in it 5 years and I'm already having that feeling. Like, did you both have that moment where you were like you just said, man, where you went, oh no, that was my chosen career. I'm meant to stay here. Like almost like I've done something wrong. Whereas it's almost like stepping back and thinking, I haven't done anything wrong. I can just take everything I've just learned with me and somewhere else. But did you both have that moment where you were like, oh, this wasn't my chosen career. What am I going to do now?
100%, 100%. I think I was just like, because I think in the beginning you're just like, how would I be able to transfer everything that I've learned? Is it all going to be a waste? And I feel like it's other people then understanding your background as well and how relevant it is to what you're asking them for when you're speaking to recruiters and people who employers, right? But I think, yeah, it was really tricky because you just feel like, oh, I'm starting all over again. I've lost every, like, what have I done? I've wasted 5 years. That's how it felt. Yeah.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree with that. Yeah.
And how awful that people feel that way. That Denise, you just said wasted. You felt like you wasted that time, and a lot of people do feel that way. Instead of thinking, how do I reframe my
Yeah.
experience when talking to recruiters? Because there is so many, like I said, transferable skills and the experiences that you would have taken from both of your previous careers into tech. We had a lady on our podcast. If you haven't listened to our podcast, by the way, shameless plug, we have a podcast called Spilling the Tea. And she said to me one of the best things she ever did, one of the best jobs was working in a pub. And she took so much from that, working with the public, working with people that were drunk, people that had throwing questions at you and working under pressure. And she said, I just realized that actually the transferable skills I took from that one job pushed me to my next job. And you don't always realize at the time what you're learning along the way, and how it could take you into your next career, whether that's tech or beyond. And I don't know if you've seen those adverts. McDonald's is running new adverts, and there's like all of the team are really busy, and they're almost like running around in the kitchen, and then they just put the word resilience. And I thought that is so true. I worked at McDonald's as a student, and you are exhausted by the end of the day. But the word resilience is very true because you just keep going and going and you wear holes in your shoes, but you don't realize that that helps you in all of your roles, 20 years down the line, where you look back and think, actually, yeah, that was a really good career move. And that time wasn't wasted. That time was something that that really made me as a person.
I think working with the public is so important, isn't it? Because
Yes.
that teaches you a lot. Because I remember when I was in full-time education, used to get summer jobs and like job holiday jobs and that kind of thing. And I remember my first job was in Woolworths cleaning shelves, and if you were lucky, you went to the tills. So that was like a real promotion. And dealing with grumpy customers and people who are upset for whatever reason, that is such an amazing grounding that you don't appreciate at the time because you find it just hard work, don't you? But actually, later in life, you do realize that there's something that you've learned from it along the way, and it does give you that basic core set of skills, doesn't it? So Yeah, every job has its challenges, doesn't it? So,
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Working with well, Denise, you worked with the public, but you work with public when they're in pain, and
Vulnerable. Yeah,
what
yeah.
did you take from that experience?
Oh man. Especially during COVID because you see, it was a horrible
mm,
time because you'd see, I don't want to be morbid here, but someone come in and then they're really, really scared. Like you see people with long-term conditions and they're really scared. They don't know what their prognosis is and they just are looking for reassurance. You want to be able to give them hope and also allow them to be able to fight for whatever they're going through. And is that fine balance as well, educating them, advocating for them as well. The pressures are high with the NHS, so you're also being their spokesperson and having to shout to rooftops, this person needs help. But yeah, you meet so many people from different walks of life. I've met famous people. I'm not going to name, but I've met people who are really young people, really young, really old, people who've lived amazing lives, and you hear all these different stories. And I think that's what really I loved that about nursing, but definitely a huge skill to be able to speak to people from all walks of life and be comfortable with just building a relationship and building a rapport with those people. That's definitely helped me in my current role, for sure.
Yeah. We're going to need a different episode or event for you to tell all about the celebrities that you met. We'll put that one on the podcast. Um, Man, what strategies helped you overcome self-doubt when moving into unfamiliar roles or industries?
So for me, it was like landing on another planet. So week one, I was put in a training course, how to become a business analyst, because that was the analysis, that was the link, by the way, between my analysis skills in tech, in research, and therefore tech. It lends itself to that, doesn't it? So and week two, so I went on a course to learn how to make a cup of tea, which is like a process. So that was what it was about. And then week two, I was the lead business analyst on one of the biggest HR and payroll projects in the country.
Gosh.
It was a bit of a baptism of fire, and it literally was landing on another planet. The culture is different. People spoke a very different language because everything's got acronyms in it, and every industry has its own, doesn't it? So I guess you kind of go into a bit of a panic mode and you're thinking, what have I done? But then once you kind of calm yourself down, have that cup of tea that you made, you then begin to realize that you have got skills that you've already built. And in my case, it was what I knew best, which is basically form good relationships and make friends with people, because that's what I'm good at. So essentially, you retract back to the most basic core, and that's the soft skills that you have, and that's what I did. I guess, and picking up on your point, Denise, about the learning, it's about actually constantly reminding yourself to be curious and to start learning again. And if you're open to that, then you're able to absorb and not be so you don't have to be the expert on day one. And being open and honest with your customer, with your client that says, guys, I've been here a week, this is my background, but this is what I'm and and being honest, asking for help where it was needed. I think those were the sort of basic things that I did. And I felt, even though it was felt like a fish out of water for sure, but within a few weeks, you sort of start to get the pattern you see. I mean, they were using systems I've never seen in my life before, and bearing in mind I don't have a technical bone in my body, it was quite and I was working for a big tech company. It was quite a baptism of fire, but actually now looking back on it, it is about those core skill sets. It's about learning. It's relying on that and the basics, and then rebuilding, not building from scratch at all. It's rebuilding on an existing foundation.
Yes, I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah, at least just remembering all of the things that you're good at. We so forget to do that as well. We forget, like, yeah, but actually I was really good at my last job. What was I good at? And if it's the soft skills, lean on those, and move from there. Denise, are those kind of strategies that you went with as well, because the acronyms, oh, the acronyms in tech. I swear that's why a lot of people just think I just can't do it. Why do we use all of these acronyms? And am I the only one that left that meeting and just Googled everything, but nodded away, but went and Googled everything because I didn't want to look like I don't
There
know
was no
all of.
Google in my day, just to be clear. There was none of
True, very true.
that.
So did you
Uh,
revert to any strategies, Denise? And with the
yeah.
Googling, I take it.
Yeah, I really when Eman was speaking, I was definitely like there's a lot to kind of agree on with her. But main specifically is the soft skills. For me, I had to remind myself that I'm not starting all over again. I think it was just realizing that I have that not focusing on what I don't have, but what I actually had, and that was I loved problem solving. I work well under pressure. I love communicating with people. I love solving people's problems. I love building relationships. Those were my soft skills, and I call them transferable skills mainly. But I think those are really, really important to kind of switch your mindset from I'm not enough to, oh, I have something and I have something to bring to the table. I have a plethora of skills, of expertise that I'm bringing with me from being a teacher, from being a nurse, from being whatever you were. And you're bringing it to the table, and they're blessed to have you. I think
Yes.
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that is the mindset, because I think as well, remembering that you're not new to the workplace is really valuable to remember that, because when you do get graduates into a new company, they might have the qualifications that you're looking for, but that baptism of fire when you first start in your first full-time job, you don't realize the work politics, just working in an office, working with a team, how to deal with challenges, how to deal with teams when things go wrong as well, and how to make sure that you work together and that and there's no fallouts and everything that comes with that. You don't get that until you've been in work a few good years as well. So you have all of that when you transition to another industry. So it's almost like remembering, actually, I'm really valuable at this point. Um, I've just got a lot more to learn in this new industry. And Denise, you touched upon this a little bit there with your answer. But how could someone effectively communicate a non-linear career path to employers as a strength rather than a weakness? And I think a lot of it is what you just said, learning how to tell your own story really is the key.
Absolutely. You have to, even if you have to practice in the mirror, I had to do that. Because I kept on saying, this was my line. Oh, I used to be a nurse and now I want to get into tech. Or that was my first one. And I think someone corrected me. I went to a expo and she was like, oh, no, you need to change that. You need to change the way you're talking. You're not just a nurse. There's something that you've brought from your career as a nurse. So change that thing. So my example would be like, oh, I have a background in high pressure healthcare environments, which has strengthened my problem solving, communication, and ability to handle critical situations. My skills I now apply to cloud computing. Like that's something that you could use, and just like we said, transferable skills, soft skills. Like just mention those things, but kind of you have to connect the dots for them. When
Yes.
you're telling your story, you're connecting the dots. You don't want them to connect the dots for you. And they value adaptability. That's what, like you said, they want the value, and they're always going to get value from people who have worked in the workplace already. Um, and it's a non-linear path that shows you that you can learn, you can evolve, you can step out your comfort zone, and that's a huge strength, a very huge strength. Yeah.
Definitely. So you remind me of a lady years ago who said to me, when you're at a networking event, you shouldn't introduce yourself as your name and job title, especially if it's
Mm,
something like sales. Because if you just say, "Oh, I work in sales," people can't almost grasp what you do and all the value that you bring working in sales. And she used to say to me, instead of saying sales, you would say, "Hi, I'm so and so. I find the shortest route or the fastest route to the money." And then people were like, "Ah, actually, that's what she does." So that's
uh,
that lady pointing out to you. Don't say, I was just a nurse, and the things that you would have brought with you, and how to
yeah.
reframe that. I love that. Um, and man, yourself, how do you think that people can, effectively communicate their strengths rather than weaknesses?
I think, I mean, we've just touched, Denise, you've just touched on pretty much every point I was in, but it's exactly the same thing. But I would say, I think there's two types of skills, isn't there? There's those transferable skills that we're talking about, and then there's the technical skills that are relevant to the job. And to me, they're two different things. So the technical skills you can learn on the job or as part of training and so on and so forth. But those core transferable skills, they go with you wherever you go. And to me, you've already got that great starting point on which you can build the technical skills. So, you've already talked about communication, engagement, etc. It's easy, simple things like the work ethic, just the fact that you can build a structure to your day, and you've got a structure you've got discipline, you've got listening skills, you've got leadership skills, relationship building, empathy. I remember I completely went out of my mind. I remember when I was doing my CVs for that career change, and I'd run teams in my science job, right? Never even thought it was relevant to going into and he's like, well, of course it is. You've run teams, you've managed students, you've managed the most difficult teams sometimes to bring together. But it's that sort of thing that you don't realize. So it's about reframing what you've already done into the career, and that's relevant for you. So I think in terms of a move to another career and going to a different employer, it's selling those, and it's exactly that. It's phrasing it in a way that makes it relevant to them and they can see the value. The other point I'd make is I think we do this quite a lot in our business in terms of just moving between clients. Every time you move, be it a career or an employer, you bring in a different perspective and a fresh perspective, and I think that's undervalued sometimes. And but that is worth its weight in gold, because you don't realize it, you don't know what you don't know, and until these people bring that perspective, yeah, it's a bit of a blind spot, isn't it? And I think that is really valuable, and people need to play on that as well. It's insights, it's perspectives that brings a load of benefits to the new career and to the new employer.
Yes, and actually, somebody has asked in here from an employer's perspective. They've actually said, "I'm a team lead and just wanted some advice on how I can better recognise and value non-traditional career paths, both within my current team and when interviewing other potential candidates." And I think that is what you were just saying there, Iman, about almost digging into the other things on their CVs as well, that perhaps they might not have been so obvious about, leadership skills and insights and empathy, but it's almost looking beyond sometimes what they've just listed on their CV, and they've asked here how to better recognise and value non-traditional career paths.
Yeah, I think it's about understanding what type of roles those people have played, and maybe just getting them to explain what that entailed, and in their own context and in their own previous career or previous job. And sometimes just like we're doing here, just by having a conversation, it's very, very easy to then pick out certain things that they'll say. And you can, like the whole team leadership thing that I completely missed. I hadn't even thought about it. And in fact, it never came up, funnily enough. It wasn't until I was in my second career that I realized I was drawing on those skills I'd learned when I was in the world of research and academia. So I suppose it's the art of that conversation and that dialogue To me, that's really, really important. The other thing is, and I don't know if that's helpful, but from my point of view, and certainly when we employ people, it's more about the values fit and the attitude and everything else we've talked about, because they can learn how to do business analysis and how to make a cup of tea process. But some of those fundamentals that are really, really important, do the values align with your organizations? Are they the right sort of fit? Are they the right personality? That's worth way more than how to make a cup of tea, if that makes sense. Sorry, how to do
Yes.
a process that makes a cup of tea. But
I couldn't agree more with you on that one. Because I wanted to ask you about the skills or mindsets that you think are most important for thriving in today's non-linear world of work. But actually, what you just said there about it's something as well that your qualifications can't always get you as far as always get you as far as you think. When I have interviewed people who I think have a fantastic CV, and then I will get them on the line and I will look and I think, oh, so disappointed because you were the top runner. And actually, having that, just that way about them, that attitude of wanting to learn and me sitting there thinking, oh, our partners are going to absolutely love you. That doesn't always align with the person with the standout CV. So in terms of mindsets and skills, like what are the most important ones there? Because you mentioned, attitude. That's just
yeah, I
you
think
can't put your finger on.
it is that, isn't it? I mean, listen, when I was in academia, I worked with the biggest brains you could ever have. That's probably part of the reason why I didn't move as well, because they were just so intelligent. But sometimes common sense needs to
Yes.
prevail as well. And I think it is understanding those kind of capabilities, basic capabilities that are inherent in the individual. That work ethic for me is worth its weight in gold. That ability to apply common sense and be pragmatic where you have a very difficult situation. Denise, you mentioned a few times about the problem solving and being able to work in a team. Those things are so, so important. And sometimes people omit those from CVs and so on because they think it's basic and it's not really relevant because they're trying to look really good from a technical point of view. But those are the sorts of things that you really need to make it work for you as an employer. You need that team spirit. You need that kind of ability to rely on people and be dependent on them and trust what they're doing. Those to me are the kind of some of the most important skill sets in terms and mindsets that we look for anyway as an employer. Um, and I think from every client we've ever worked with, that resonates across. So yeah.
Yeah. Denise, I can see you nodding because if I saw your CV, I would think, oh, she's worked in a very high pressured environment. She knows, she's learned, you might not have at first, but she has learned to cope in chaos sometimes and to stay calm in those types of environments. Is that kind of one of those, I suppose that is a mindset that you think that, that does help you transition into another career route. Because Amanda's used the perfect phrase there to describe your background, Denise, weight in gold. You would have learned so much in those environments that you took all that with you, and it's something that you might not maybe explicitly write on your CV, but myself, I would look and think, gosh, the amount of experience that you're bringing that a graduate isn't, perhaps, then we would much rather have somebody like yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the main thing, resilience, and then high pressure environment constantly. I worked in ICU, by the way, so I was in intensive care for liver. So that was high pressure every day, and I think the difference between any other industry is life and death,
Yeah.
life or death. And I think nothing can really beat that. So when you're coming from that to, okay, customers really pissed off or they've been let down. And I think there's this way that you're like, okay, cool. This is,
I can
I've
cope
seen
with this.
worse. I can deal with this. I can cope with this. And I think also like managing patients when they get bad news or when they're upset with their care. Constantly, I had to deal with family members who weren't happy with their loved one's care, angry, frustrated. So you're learning how to de-escalate, communicate in a way where you're empathetic, but also trying to get people aligned with what the current situation is so that you can manage their expectations. That's all I do every single day as a cloud support engineer. Like that's what I do. It literally transfers, copy, paste. And I think that's what's allowed me to thrive. That's why when there's an escalation, I'm the one to deal with it. My manager trusts me to deal with it because he's like, ah, oh, cool. She's got this. She can handle it. So that's
Yes.
an example, really.
Yeah, because emotions would be running high in those situations. And I
Yeah.
think people as well, they kind of apologize afterwards and they're like, oh, you know what, it just the situation at the time, emotions were running high. That isn't usually me,
Yes.
but you would have been at the on the front line of that. And Connie has jumped in here. She's actually said, from my experience, we're never just something. Um, so when you tell people, if you ever told somebody I was just a nurse before, she said, "Well, I was never just something." I think as women, we tend to downplay our skills and value more than we realize. And she said, let's own our experience, which is brilliant
Love it.
advice there. Denise, for someone considering a move into tech from a different field, what practical first steps would you recommend?
I think keep it simple. Um, I the first thing I did is I know this is gonna sound so funny, but I just found out what different areas in tech were about because I had no idea. I just knew I had someone who was in DevOps. I had no idea what DevOps was. I knew someone who was a cloud architect. I was like, what is the cloud? What is this? So I think I spent like a day. ChatGPT, bit of TikTok, a bit of different things, whatever, like YouTube. And like, oh, so what are these different industries? What do they mean? Like, what parts? What like, okay, we talk about tech. What does tech cover? So got to identify like the different areas of tech. So you talk about cloud or data, cybersecurity, any like even non-technical parts. So you've got like project management, product management, and all these different roles. So I think just understanding the industry first, understanding the different paths. And then once I understood, I then had to pick a path. But how was I able to pick a path? I think I had to talk to a lot of people. I think people love talking about themselves as we are doing right now. I love talking about my journey. And I think we take that for granted. I think we kind of get shy to ask a stranger or ask someone that we don't really know about their role. But one thing that does, it demystifies. Like you realize, oh my gosh, okay, so I can see myself in this person. They're talking about certain skills that I have. I can do this. And that really gives you like confidence to then pick, choose. So I'll say do research, but through people. I think keep it simple at that point. And then once you've then now it's about learning the foundations. I wouldn't don't go crazy. Just learn it. So for example, for me, it was I knew I wanted to do cloud. I was like, okay, I'm really interested in cloud, but I was also really interested in cybersecurity. So I did foundations for both of them. It took me about 3 months in total to get the foundations. And then I realized, oh, I love cloud. I am definitely sticking with cloud. And then again, that's more confidence about the choice you're making. And then from there, I think the last one was just making sure that you are consistent with your learning because your learning builds your confidence. Like Eman said, it's about being curious, about asking questions, about wanting to know more, not just taking what you read or see, but like digging deeper and realizing, and it helps you then realize whether or not you have a true passion for what you're saying you wanna do. So yeah, that was those are my main steps.
I love that. It's such good advice as well. I think understanding the industry and the roles available is such a good first step because it can be quite overwhelming as well when you have that thought and you think, oh, I'm going to go into the tech industry. I have to be technical. I have to be a coder. Um, And Aman, you said earlier about you're not techie. So, what kind of first steps would you think if you're not techie? That's great advice, right? To think, just look into the types of roles that are actually available, and then start figuring out where you might be able to transition, because that's not always as a coder.
Yeah, 100%. Can I just do a little shameless plug for me? Because I actually fixed my own Wi-Fi yesterday and I was so proud. I went out for a drink afterwards. I was really proud of myself. But I am not a techie person. I think for me, it's about, and this is something, if I were to go back and tell my younger self that, that's what I would say. And in my day, just to put the context into it, there was no Google, there was no TikTok, there was no nothing. And we had to go to the library and I had to go to a career advisor who promptly told me that I should just go into teaching because that fitted with my family plans, which I didn't have. So it was, that was my kind of research, if you like. But I think for me, it's about understand your strength and your own passions. What ignites your passion? I think if we understand that, then I think then it's a matching exercise. And as Denise said, do your research, get out there, find out as much as you want to know about it, the different options, because it is a big industry. It is very, very vast. And you've got from one end of the scale, we are literally just looking at business processes and business change and the soft side of change, all the way through to someone who's coding and writing AI agents and so on and so forth, and everything in between. And actually, the reality is there will be a niche that is relevant and right for you, but understanding what it is that fires you up and your own strengths, and then have, because you might be a coder and you might be, that's what you're brilliant at, or you might be a project manager, as you've just said, Denise, and that's what you're good at. And you can do, it's finding that sweet spot for you, but it does take a lot of research and taking the time, as you rightly said, is talking to people, just understanding what options there are. We get quite a lot of youngsters actually coming into our business who are either school leavers or graduates that literally just shadow us and find out what it is that we do. And I think people don't realize that they've got that option, be it if you're a school leaver or someone who's going into a second or even third career. People are always willing to share and they're always willing to show off what they do. So I think it's really, really important that you do that. And actually, above all, I'd say enjoy the journey because it is there's so much opportunity out there. It's just finding that sweet spot for you.
Yes, yes, I love that. That's such good advice as well. And feeling, I mean, we mentioned right at the start of this where you both had that frustration of where you were as well, and feeling like this isn't for me. So finding a passion, finding what you want to do in tech, so you can keep going. I've always found as well in certain roles that I've been in, you start to almost feel this pull, like everything is just pulling in the wrong direction, and you almost just know on the inside you're like, this isn't for me, because like it feels difficult. Whereas when you're in the right place, in the right company, in the right career, things tend to flow. Like you can feel it inside, and that kind of helps with your day to day. Because someone has asked in here about burnout. So they've said, Denise, you mentioned you were feeling burnt out, and this is something I can completely relate with. How did you rebuild a different career while still achieving that work-life balance and not burning out again?
Yeah, so just to clarify, the work-life balance currently in my current role. Okay.
Yes. So how did you? I mean, if you felt burnt out in your last
hmm
career, how did you move forward and find a work-life balance and just kind of, I
Yeah.
suppose, almost draw a line and say, you know what, I'm not gonna burn out again, but I am determined to move forward and learn.
Yeah, I think this is really important. I think when you're choosing the place that you want to work, I think we're really, really excited to get that first role. But at the same time, we also must ask, oh, the culture of that organization, the environment, do they foster an environment where they believe in work-life balance, or is it something they just like to say? I think it's really important. I got to speak to a few people before joining Trusted Tech, just to see how life was for women who were working in Trusted Tech, was happy with the feedback I got from them. So I think as much as you want to land that first role, and successfully get into the industry, you don't want to regret it long term, from just feeling like, oh, I've put myself in a situation where I'm not really happy to be in. There's unfortunately, like, I think there's only like 20%, 21% of female engineers in tech. And you know what that goes with. It goes with the culture of like a really based on the man rather than an equal playing field for both women and men. And I feel like you need to also just ask yourself this question: do they celebrate women? Are women part of management and leadership? Are they making decisions for the organization? So that one was a major one to kind of prevent burnout. I asked questions like, "What's your maternity leave package? Like, what's it like?" Like you only say enhance. What does that mean? Would you consider like increasing that policy and things like that? I think you just have to think long term about your values, and then if anything contradicts those values from that organization, you probably have to consider. And I know it's hard to do when you really just desperately want to get into the industry, but long term, it's really important. And I think that's one of the main things I did. I was very vocal, and I continue to be vocal about my needs and the needs of all. I think I'm like pro women in tech. I really want to see more of us in there.
You're so right as well, because there is such a low number still of women in tech, and this is for a whole other webinar. But we seem to be doing better with a pipeline than we ever used to be, and we still need some work there. But now it's almost the issue of how do we get those women to stay? And like you said, Denise, there are certain policies there to help more women to stay and to feel like they want to stay in the tech industry once they get there is a whole other problem. Yes,
Can I
Eman.
just can I just add to what Denise said? Because when I moved, I went to a big corporate, and I will always be grateful to that corporate for giving me that opportunity to do the leap. But I found them to be too corporate and too far away from that people journey. So when I met my business partner, which was only like the first year I was working on the joint project with him, our values aligned instantly, and I thought that's a much better fit. And even I was only in that big corporate company for 18 months before I actually switched. I think that first leap can seem like the biggest leap, but then after that it is easier because you're connected in the industry, you're much more aware of what's out there and so on and so forth. It was still a big leap of faith because it went from being a massive employer to essentially just a handful of people. So that was a massive leap of faith, but just being mindful, does this organization align with your values? Is this the right thing? The first step might not be, but the second or the third might be. So don't be afraid, I guess, is the point I'm making here.
Yes, it's a really good point, because finding the right company, the right size of company, what's happening in that company. I like the chaos sometimes of a smaller company and a startup. That's not for everybody. I do not like a big corporate company. So I like the madness of what happens when things are just starting. And yeah, it's not for everybody. So it's finding what works for you when you take that leap. And also when you take that leap, because someone has asked in here, they say, thank you so much for this session. I'm later on in my career, brackets putting it nicely, and considering a career switch. Do you think it's ever too late to take a completely new direction? We get asked that a lot, and I can see you both shaking your heads. Man, is it too late?
No, nothing is ever too late as long as you've got that willingness to learn and that appetite to do something new and different. 100% do it. It's never too late.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I've got a couple more questions in here. I'm going to fire them out to you both. This one is for Denise. Hey, Denise, if you could do one thing differently when transitioning from healthcare to tech again, what would you do or not do? I'm actually doing my dissertation on this, and so trying to get the different views on this from people who are considering to move and who have actually moved too as well. And this person, Sammy, they're doing it through a survey. So. Any advice there? One thing that you would do differently when transitioning from healthcare to tech if you had to do it all again?
You know what? I hate to toot my own horn, but I can't actually think of anything that I regretted because I feel like I did everything I did, even though it wasn't making sense to me at that point. They were very helpful. But I think if I could do something sooner was to understand my transferable skills and to really like wave that flag for myself and advocate like I have value. I'm not starting all over again. And I think that was huge for me because I only realized when I probably like a few months into my new role and I was like, oh, I'm realizing that my skills, my resilience, my problem solving, my communication with customers is really driving forward like this progression for me within the organization. I got promoted within 11 months to lead, from junior to lead, because of
Amazing.
these transferable skills, not per se because of the technical skills I'd um, gotten, but mainly because of the transferable skills. So I think if I could just change something, I think is my mindset quite early on. Um, but I am pretty proud of my journey, I'm not gonna lie.
Good, good,
Yeah.
good. Um, and Sammy, if you haven't already, please drop that survey in our community. We do have some community members that might align with that. So if you haven't already dropped it in there, please do. And hopefully some of our members can help you with that as well. Just drop it on the live feed. And then we have one last question from Susie, and she has said, as a migrant, how can you stand out and scale over the barrier the system has? Over the barrier the system has already created by insisting you have to have a UK experience, especially if you require a visa sponsorship. Any advice on that? How do you get over that barrier there if you do require sponsorship as well? Yeah, I mean you're
I,
transitioning into a new career and you've got other barriers as well. That's quite a challenge.
I suppose the same advice applies as what we've been saying, in the sense that you've got to play on the things that you do well and that you're strong at. And if you have got, I'm an immigrant. I was born in a different country. I came here at the age of 13. Now, I wasn't in the job market at the time, although I did work in Woolworths, I have to say, I'll put that out. But so I guess it's the same principles that we've just been discussing applies. You need to stand out as an individual. And I guess if you stand out as an individual, that makes you attractive to the employer. And if you're attractive to the employer, they will do anything and everything to help you help secure you for the role. So I guess it is that it's playing to your strengths, it's playing and it's understanding what processes you have to go through. I think we've had somebody apply, but they decided not to come along with us. But if she'd have been the right fit, or if she'd have been the right sort of skill sets, we would have gone, through the process to help secure her employment in the UK. And that was only about 18 months ago. So I would say, as just do what we've been saying, and just stand out. It's as simple as that, because it's about people, isn't it? It's kind of like irrelevant in terms of what happens in the background. It's about you as the individual.
Yes,
And I
exactly.
love what Iman said, but I love to add something else as well. I think probably use people as well. If you know someone within an organization, a bit of nepotism, I guess, some way.
Working.
But a Nepo friend, I guess. But just try and see who, like, do research, like, speak to loads of people, build that rapport. You never know, someone might love your story and might be able to kind of find a space for you, but also reach out to people on LinkedIn. I would put a statement on LinkedIn, a post, and say, anyone who's been struggling with this, any tips or any tricks of how you worked around this, like what were the main things that you learned, and what could I start to do to kind of increase my chances of landing a role with sponsorship? Because there's so much knowledge with people that they're holding on to, but they're just looking for someone who wants that knowledge that they have, and people love to share. Funny enough, I've learned from using LinkedIn. Just yeah, use LinkedIn. Don't be shy. Be out there, ask for help, and just use people.
Yes, brilliant advice. And also the using of people, the using of networks as well. We tell a lot of our community members' stories as well, and we like to put them up on a pedestal and say this is what they're doing. They've done great things already, and we tell their stories through different interviews and blogs. So if there is anybody on the line that is looking to tell their story, we would absolutely love to hear from you. Please drop myself a note in the community, or Alison. You will see Alison's face a lot in our community. Please drop us a direct message, and if we can help you to tell your story and that might help you with gaining a job in the future, please do let us know how we can shine a light on what you're doing. So ladies, we're already out of time. I would love to continue to pick your brains on your squiggly careers, but we are already out of time. So thank you both very much for joining our live webinar today. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks for having me.
you. Thanks
Really
for having
enjoyed
us.
that. Been a
Thank
pleasure.
you. And for all of our wonderful community members, thank you so much for always showing us support and joining us and always being so chatty. And we couldn't do it without you. So thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you on the next webinar. And we also look forward to seeing you inside our community platform and chatting away with our members. So it's been an absolute pleasure, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your days. Thank you all. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.